Well, at this time of the year, it's difficult to get out and do much work because it's just so wet and cold and soggy. But what it is a good time for is to find out a little bit about the soil in your garden. It's the most important thing. The plant's growing it, so you need to know what type of soil you've got. And there are a couple of very simple tests that you can do that will cost very little money, that will give you a lot of information and make it easier for growing flowers, fruit, shrubs, vegetables, next year and forever. The first one we can do is a pH test, and that determines whether your soil is alkaline or acid. And it's all determined by the amount of calcium, which is lime, that's in your soil. So if you've got lots of lime in the soil, you've got an alkaline soil. If you've not got very much lime, then it's an acid soil. And in the middle, halfway, we call neutral. And that's quite important because some plants need acid soil. For example, rhododendrons, they've got to have an acid soil to grow well. So it's well worth carrying out a very simple test. You can get a soil pH test kit like this for just over £1, so it's worth spending £1 before you go out and spend 20 or 30 pounds on rhododendrons for the garden. And all you get with it is a little test tube and a colour chart, which we need to keep. And in the test tube, there's a little container full of powder. This is going to determine what our pH is. So what we do is we put the powder into the test tube, and then we need some dry soil. So ideally you need to get a bit of soil out of the garden and just dry it in the house for a day or so on a piece of kitchen roll. And then once the powder's in, we want a little bit of our dry soil. Just put that in there. We go up to the first indicator on the tube. It's quite easy to do. It only takes a couple of minutes, and then we top that up with ordinary water. Just tap water's fine, or if you've got distilled, that's better still. Put the cap on, and then we're going to give that a good shake. So we've got the indicator powder, we've got the salt, and we've got the water, and then we're going to give that a good shake to mix all of those ingredients together. It takes a couple of minutes to settle once we've given it a shake. So if we just put that there for the time being and let that settle, we can look at another simple test you can do, and this one is absolutely free. It's to actually feel your soil and get to know the texture of the soil, because from that we can determine whether it's a clay soil or a sandy soil. And I've got two spadefuls of soil here, both out of my garden but from different parts of the garden, and that just shows how much the soil can vary even in a garden. This one is my vegetable plot, and if I get a handful of this and mould it into a shape, it breaks up very easily, and if I rub it between my finger and thumb, I can feel a little bit of sand or grittiness in there. There is clay in there because it makes a mould, but it's also got sand and silt, so we would call that a loamy soil. It's quite friable, it breaks up easily. Whereas this one, this is a different type of soil. This is from my rose garden, and this one moulds into a shape really easily. But you can't break it up, it doesn't crumble at all. This has got a very high clay content, and as a result the water drains to it much slower than this one that's nice and friable. So again, it helps with working the soil. At times we dig it, we need lots of organic matter, but we can see that that could be used to make a cup and saucer if we wanted to. So that's a clay soil. Now if we go back to our pH test, which has started to settle, with the kit you get this colour chart, which is very important, because what happens is as the liquid settles and the sediment settles, we can read off the colour against the colour chart, and I've got an olive green, and that tells me that my soil is about neutral, which is good for most things. Wouldn't be very good for rhododendrons, but pretty much anything else I can plant in there and I'll know it will grow really well.